Are you ready for drama? Or maybe like a little reality show? Well, just step into a preschool classroom and you'll find lots of drama there because children have big emotions and they're still learning how to self-regulate it. As a teacher, you might have one child there just throwing a tantrum and saying that he doesn't want to come to class. And then there might be another one crying because somebody's taking his blocks away. Well, guess what? It requires somebody with expertise, classroom management, and that has been in the trenches for a long time to help a child understand and deal with big emotions. And that's why today we have Miss Sammy that has all this content very fresh because she experiences on a daily basis. How are you doing, Miss Sammy?
I'm doing good. I'm safe. I'm out of the classroom.
You are. We pulled you out. Okay. Well, so now that you are, what are those skills and characteristic of emotional maturity that children have, especially in the preschool years, 3 to 5?
Like I was saying, I'm safe because I'm out of the classroom because it could be scary. It could really be scary. Preschool, especially 3 years old or 2s and 3s, are very emotional. They have big emotions and they don't know how to recognize those. And that's why they have them. They still haven't reached yet that verbal skill to say, I'm sad, I'm angry, I want the toy. Why don't you share it? So they're not able to say so they had to act it up. And sometimes you can have 10 of them dropping down on the floor and kicking or throwing. And it is hard, but it is manageable. Remember that we work with several children, not with one. We can have up to 15 on our own.
So guide us through that journey. So they don't know how to regulate their emotions. So how do, as a parent, you start like understanding the techniques and incorporating like some healthy, like instructional learning opportunities to help them regulate their emotions?
So the first thing that I would suggest, and this might sound a little bit strange for parents, but you do have to recognize your own emotions. So you have to know you have them, right? If you're able to recognize your emotions, you're able to label them, then you can teach your child how to recognize their own emotion. First thing is not to react. Once they're thrown on the floor because they didn't get what they wanted or they don't want to eat, but we tell them, but come and eat, please. You have to eat. They're going to act. And if they act and we react, everything just gets worse and worse and worse. So first thing is recognize your emotions so then you can help your child and don't react.
I love that advice. I always say that little children, especially in the preschool year, are like spiritual masters that guide us through our own like healing of our inner child, because there's a lot of things that we have to work on us. So I love that you started with the parents labeling, understanding their emotions before they actually teach them. Okay, so let's say what are those milestones? What could we expect from a preschooler that is realistic?
So let's go back before this. Let's go back to the 2 years old. We know they don't have their verbal skills there yet, and that's why they act the way that they act. 3 years old do have verbal skills better than the 2 years old, but they're still very emotional. Having verbal skills doesn't mean that they can recognize their emotions. So that's the first step, right? So it's self-regulation and self-awareness and then social awareness. So those are the 3 milestones that they need to get to really start self-regulating.
Okay, so let's start from the beginning. So the first step that you mentioned is how would a parent help their child recognize their emotions? So it started with a parent. So now what would a parent do to help their child?
So recognize what the child is doing. I see that you're sad. I see that you're upset. What is making you angry? How can I help you? Without reacting immediately to pick up the child or like console them, just talk to them through. That way they'll probably stop, right? They'll probably stop and they had to tell you what is going on. I want that toy and I can't have it because they're saying, oh, so you're angry because, so you model language what the child should be saying. Once you had done this enough, the child will start repeating and recognizing their own emotion.
Wow, now to hear you talking, I am reflecting and remembering when my son was a preschooler. Like one of the habits, one of the things that he used to do was like, oh my God, he couldn't lose in a competition. Like even it would be a race, he would be the first one to raise hands, but if he would lose it, he would throw a tantrum. And I didn't, I wish, it's too late now, right? Because he's already an adult. But I wish I would have known a lot of the things that we're like teaching young parents now, because I didn't know what to do with him. I'm like, oh my God, this kid, I don't even know who that is. I felt like just going away because he would throw himself if he wanted a prize, right? He was frustrated. He was angry that he didn't win it. And I remember that probably I didn't walk through them in a situation like this.
Right.
What would a parent do?
So I love that you brought that in. I wanted to ask you something. Wouldn't be helpful if you were able to recognize those emotions or have an example when you lived through it when you were little? Why help you? But did our parents help us get through it? Probably not, right? Now we do have that knowledge, right? So it would be better. When that happened, I went through the same situation with my daughter too. In a mall, like she just threw a tantrum, didn't want to walk with us, but she was old enough to walk with us, right? She was 4, but she didn't want to walk anymore. She threw herself in there and did not want to get up and started kicking. And so me and my husband just get going a little bit farther, safe space. We give them a safe space that I can still see her. When she realized that we weren't there or close to her or not paying attention to that or reacting to it, she got up and she kept following us. And I know it takes time. We all feel embarrassed. Some parents do go by and say, been there, done that. So don't feel ashamed. Don't feel like, oh my goodness, embarrassed. What am I going to do? Because it happens to all of us. Again, this is a learning process for the child. So it is for us as a parent. So as long as the child starts learning to recognize those emotions, everything's going to get better.
An expert, discipline expert, Dr. Becky Bailey says one thing that she always says that what you get when you focus, you get more. That means if you probably would have just try to convince your daughter to stand up from the floor, she would have probably been there for a long time.
More time,
right?
That's right.
And that we see in a setting. So you're at home, your child is crying you didn't even know why, and they're throwing out the floor. What should you do? Should you ignore them? Or should you focus on that behavior and try to talk to them? What should you do?
So it depends. We gotta be observant with our student, just like as parents be observant with our children. Try and see what works best. Things can change. Try at first, right? So observe that. Try to engage with your child. Get to their eye level, right? Because from up here, they're not gonna look at us. They're not gonna look up and ask us, "What do you want, mommy?" They see this as a threat. So get down to their level. Talk to them through it. Again, try to see that you're upset. I see that you're sad. And then if the child start reacting to that, keep on going the conversation. And then talk about it when the child's come. If he is not coming down even with your calm voice, then you can wait. Yeah. As long as your child is being safe, not hurting him or herself, just wait a little. It will pass.
I think that is absolutely a great advice, because sometimes we just we want to manage the situation and control it right away. And then we lose control of our emotion. Like, come on, stand up.
We react.
And the primal parent comes back, which is the one that we probably heard the same scripts we heard from parents and the grandparents and stuff like that. So, that's very delicate, because what you're saying is that how we react is probably, we have two choices, right? Like we can pass that same behavior to the next generation, or we can stop it and we can create a brand new pattern. Yes, and I love that.
It definitely pass that to next generation will be helpful for everybody.
Absolutely. This information is really good. So, okay. So one of the things, sometimes the child doesn't understand the emotion. They don't know, this is how I feel to when I am happy. This is how I look, or my gestures. So what can a parent do to help the child understand the meaning of that emotion?
So there are many things that you can do. You can even structure your house to have maybe little faces with different emotions, so then your child can start identifying once they have verbal skills. Books about kindness, books about emotions, and pause. Every time you're reading books like this, pause, so then the child can identify after you have already label these emotions. Videos, of course, and even songs. Like you mentioned before, Becky Bailey has so many beautiful songs about recognizing emotions, how to treat others, and how to see others, and be can I use empathy, right? If you see somebody else crying, somebody else upset, you can talk to your child about it. What do you think is happening to him?
Yeah.
Right? Is he sad? Is he mad? And then just connect and interact with your child about this.
And what you're saying is so important because the precursor of empathy is understanding your emotions. You cannot understand somebody else's emotion if you don't understand your own. But pointing out to how other people's are feeling, it's a great way to start introducing empathy in a young child. But that's another theme, like how to build empathy. But I love that you brought it up in this sequence. 3 points. The first is understand and don't react, control your emotions. The second, what you said about helping your child verbalize how they feel and how it looks like, and the strategies to like incorporate more like vocabulary. That is the foundation to that. So let's talk about common challenges, right? Like how would you describe, for example, a situation where a parent is like dealing with a lot themselves and they just like give their child like their iPad? Okay, like please stop crying, take this iPad, and that's it. Okay, I need a break. Is that a healthy reaction?
Definitely not. And once you do it once, it becomes a habit. And definitely we don't want to get into bad habits like this. Talk through it. Always talk through it. Sometimes you even have to change the environment. Let's say you're in a restaurant and your child starts having a tantrum. If you give a tablet in the middle of the tantrum and they stop crying, every time you go to a restaurant, he will want a tablet. That's not a family meal, right? So we don't want to get into that bad habit. One thing you can do, let's say again, you're in that restaurant environment and your child having a tantrum, you can pick up your child safely. Let's go outside, change the environment, change the subject, look at some other things, make a game. There are many different strategies. Instead of reacting to it, different things that you can point at that your child can just focus their direction and change themselves.
I love that. And one of the other very common challenges is when children start like in group settings, like in early learning centers, oh my God, they're so smart. They would probably the first day, they would cry for like whatever their parents are dropping them off, and they start crying and crying and crying. Like 2-3 minutes later, some of them have already forgotten about it. Like what advice would you give parents?
So first of all, I know it could be difficult. We're parents. Personally, my daughter cried for 8 months when she started daycare. It was really hard. But yes, she did. She was manipulating the situation a little bit. I'll say first, trust the teacher. Keep in communication with the teacher. So then you know when she or he stopped crying, what he or she did during the day, what were the more pleasant moments during the preschool time or during the classroom time that kind of made her feel comfortable. That might even work at home too. Whatever the teacher was doing, it might work at home too. Keep something soft. And this is for teachers too. I have encountered children that it's really hard for them to stop crying during the day because it's the first time they're being aware. But it gets better. But what I have done is I give them Play-Doh or give them a feather. I keep them with me, and it just gets better. After 17 years of working in preschool, I had not seen a child crying every day, forever. So it does goes away. Be patient, and really learn to identify if this is really a tantrum or is this really a big emotion. So as long as we are teaching them to recognize theirs, and us to understand when can it be manipulation or not, then we're going to be on the right path, and then we can find different strategies to lessen the sadness.
So children, you brought a really interesting point. So children do know how to manipulate us sometimes, right? And how will we know when they are manipulating us?
We will notice. Well, parents might not notice right away. And this is why it's so important when you start communicating with the teacher. Same things might happen at home and then at school, but it gets better at school and it hasn't get better at home. It's because the parents don't want to recognize that what's happening. So I just say keep in communication with your teacher and talk to each other and see what works and what doesn't work. Okay.
Yeah. And sometimes, I mean, as parents, we have to analyze like, why is it that I am letting this little human probably manipulate me, right? Like
Well, they're so
sometimes,
cute.
right? They are cute, and we have to unpack. But sometimes, I mean, we feel needed. I mean, I remember when my children were going through all the stages, and when they didn't need me anymore, right? It's like a loss for a parent. It's like, oh my God, they're okay. Look at how they go to school. They're perfect. So sometimes we have to unpack that ourselves.
Mhm.
Is it that we are like missing that season, or is it that we are ready to let them go?
To let go, yes.
Yeah.
So, and that's a good point, Marnie. When you let your children make choices and celebrate their success, it's a skill they're going to carry for life. If we're there in every single step, they will not become independent. And that could be damaging in the future. So a tantrum in an adult won't become a crying. It might become an anxiety issue or something like that. We gotta let them know that we trust them and that it is okay what they're doing. Celebrate that success.
Well, that's probably one of the biggest gifts that we can give our children. And when I saw this statistic, I was a complete shock. Only 30% of adults probably have emotional intelligence. I mean, there are a lot of unregulated people that just react, like you said, to that. So this is definitely a gift that starts in preschool. And with those strategies that you gave today, those are really good pointers of things that parents can do at home for the child. I loved the idea of incorporating maybe like activities and the reading, and you even mentioned like stickers or some like
books that you can have around your house.
Around their house. What else would you say would be an intentional like activity that a parent could do at home to incorporate this type of skills?
So there's something you can look it up and with Becky Bailey too. When we sit in group settings, and remember, these are young children. I have worked with the threes and also with the VPKers. Threes are a little more difficult to do this activity because they still are working on their self-regulation. However, the song is smooth and they have a responsibility, and they're also working in the middle line, right? Because they have to do crossing, right? So the song goes, I touch your shoulder and you touch my shoulder. So they had to touch third person shoulder, and the other person also touches their shoulder. So they had to self-regulate who's coming, who's sitting right next to me, taking your child to the park, who helped them doing so. The slide is for everyone, right? But at that age, it's actually normal and appropriate to be selfish. It's my slide. I want to go first, and me first, me. Completely appropriate. So let's recognize that too. It's appropriate behavior for them to act like that, but it could be guided. So go with them and model for them. Go with them and model. Oh, you go first. You can tell a friend that's in the park, you go first. Go ahead. We can wait. Yes, we can. That shows self-regulation. So we are modeling our actions, and then your child will follow too.
Oh, I love that advice. So self-regulation, that's a whole new episode, but it's like it's doing a different activities to just to get them off that mindset of like the big emotion. We do it all the time. I mean, we're super mad and then we just like eat an ice cream and we're happy. I mean, each one of us has something different, right? That you self-regulate, but it might be a little yoga or just let's breathe, the breathing exercise, the music.
A little picture book with these emotions that you can carry on. Like if it's not in your house, it's somewhere else. Let's just bring it with you.
Absolutely. Because what we do today is going to define how our children are going to react tomorrow. And those are probably the most important skills. That's what makes us different. And having those people skills, self-regulation skills, and emotional intelligence is a foundation for building a very successful career and preparing our children for the future. So there's a lot to unpack from this episode. We just focus on how to identify big emotions. If you want to see the sequence of what you have to do next after you self-regulate, you definitely have to stay tuned and follow our YouTube channel, because Raising Innovators is all about you and giving you the tools you need to be the parent, the intentional parent your children need to be successful in the future. And if you like this episode and miss the wisdom of Miss Sammy, you definitely have to like and subscribe to her YouTube channel because you're going to be seeing a lot of her in the following episodes. Thank you so much for joining. And if you like it, share it with your friends. If you see a parent that is just struggling and probably like not self-regulating themselves, reacting, share this episode because you are sharing a little piece of wisdom and a lot of experience from the practitioners in early childhood education. Thank you so much for watching and tuning in, and see you next time.